How's it going, everyone? Coming to you with yet another guitar review, this time on an Urban. This is the Urban Player. Now, before I get too far into this, I do want to say that if you're one of those shut up and play kind of viewers, this is not going to be the video for you. I do have demonstrations of this guitar both acoustically and plugged in. And I will link in the description where you can hear the guitar plugged in, because I'm not going to be covering that in this video at all. But this is not going to be a playing demonstration, nor is it going to be a review that is super heavy focused on playing the guitar itself. I'll of course give you some acoustic tone demonstration, but that is not the point. It's not the primary function of this video. The primary function is to tell you if I think the guitar is well made, how I think it plays, who I think it's suited for, so on and so forth. So if you're one of those shut up and play kind of guys, you can click away. This isn't going to be the kind of video for you. Now, I got both this guitar and an Esteban guitar, both purely for the desire to review them and compare them. And I will make a comparison video between the two guitars in the future, and I will make a full review on the Esteban back there. But I picked these up for the purpose of review, and I paid my own money to do so. And honestly, I wasn't expecting very much whenever I ordered the guitar, because I thought, well, you know, infomercial, whatever kind of guitar, those home shopping network guitars generally aren't all that good. But this one admittedly looked very attractive to me. I love the way this guitar looks, and so I went ahead and I ordered it from Goodwill, of all places. This and the Esteban both. And I gotta say that it's surprising me more than I thought that it would. If you don't have time to watch the whole video, what I'm going to say is this is a decent guitar. This is definitely a guitar that I think would be very well suited to a beginner. I think it plays well enough for a beginner. I think it sounds good enough for a beginner. And I think it would also make a pretty decent guitar for the bar band gigging musician. If you're playing those rough honky tonks and dives, and you don't want to take your nicer guitars or even intermediate guitars out to those bars, and I get it. I've got some stuff in here that, even though it's not super high end, I still wouldn't take to some of the places I play. This is perfect for that, because if someone steps on it or smashes it or whatever, you don't really care all that much. Now, that being said, is this guitar a complete piece of junk? No. Not by any means. I have played so many acoustics that are far, far worse than this. And I've played so many that are far, far better. If I were to try to tell you where the quality levels lie, I would say it's somewhere between like an Oscar Schmidt and a Dean acoustic. It's in that general ballpark. It's not up to snuff with Washburn. It's not up to snuff with Yamaha. It's not up to snuff with Ibanez or Alvarez. It's just not. Or, the lower end Epiphones. It's not going to be comparing against those. But it is going to compete very favorably against, like I said, your Oscar Schmidts, your Deans, your Konas, your Rogues, things like that. It's going to be very good against them. And I would actually put this a step above something like a Rogue REO 90. So I do have my notes here off to the side, so I don't forget anything, and I will read out the specs to you and any information I thought would be prevalent to get into. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Now, if you buy this guitar new, it'll cost you about $250. Generally speaking, that's with a wonderful leather gig bag and a strap and a spare set of strings and a capo and some picks. And that's honestly a pretty good bundle. And I do have it with the gig. The gig bag is in my closet. I should have brought it out for the purpose of this video. I'm sorry. But the leather gig bag it came with is actually really, really nice. I would spend, $70 on just the gig bag. I really would. I do have the capo that it came with right here. And I'll say this, it is a fairly decent capo. And I was in need of more capos, so yeah, I'm actually all too happy to have this, and I'm going to be playing it in this video with an Urban pick. So, and the original Urban strings, they're the new ones that were in there, but I'm going to be playing it basically the way you would get it, with the equipment you would have it with. I believe it also came with an amplifier. I don't have that, and if you do buy the bundle and get it with the amplifier, do not use the amplifier with this guitar. And the reason why is Urban, or the Home Shopping Network, whoever was in charge of it, gave you an electric guitar amp for your acoustic, and you should never by any means ever plug your acoustic guitar into an electric guitar amp. It is not meant for it. The sound is going to be horrible. No matter how good your pickup system in your acoustic is, if you run it through an electric amp, even a high-end one, it's going to sound awful. Okay, let alone through a cheap 15-watt dime-sized speaker amplifier like what came with the guitar. You can run your acoustic through a bass amp, you can run your acoustic through an acoustic amplifier or through a PA system, but never run it through an electric guitar amplifier. So if you do buy the bundle, cool, you have a little practice amp for your electrics, don't plug your acoustic into it. It's just not going to sound good. Okay? So, price to get the guitar just by itself, usually about $150 is what you'll find this for. It's about $150 just by themselves online. Now, I hear people all the time tell me that their pawn shops have these things for $40, $50, $80, whatever. For anywhere in that ballpark, these things are a home run. I think these really are worth that price all day long. And if I were to see them at that price range, I would happily pick them up and take them to like my local Boys and Girls Club and give them away to the aspiring guitar students down there, because they are absolutely playable instruments for that price range. Okay, there are people who call these guitars absolute junk. They're not. And that's a bit of a problem with musicians and with gear snobs. Is I know people who would say that this Framus is absolute junk, or this inspired by Gibson Epiphone is junk, or this Blue Ridge is junk, or that Mexican Martin is junk. They're not. They're by no means junk guitars. They are good guitars with their own unique sounds and tone. This is an average guitar with its own unique sound and tone. Okay, it is not junk. To me, junk would be something like your average first act acoustic or your unbranded acoustic that you got from Amazon or eBay or so on and so forth. I would not classify this guitar in being that low tier, that low quality. Okay, so some technical specs. The top, and I had to do a lot of research to get information about what this guitar was made out of, and this is probably just people's best approximation. Supposedly, this is a laminate spruce top. Now, that's interesting to me, because if I bring this in, to me, that looks like a flame maple, doesn't it? With all that striping. Now, it could just be a veneer, or they could have, I guess, flamed the laminate spruce top, but supposedly, it's a laminate spruce top, so that's what I'm going to be going with. Laminate mahogany back and sides. Now, I do believe that, because that center stripe, because this is a three-piece back, which is kind of cool, very much does look like mahogany. And then you can see we have some fake abalone trim running down that center stripe, and then we have some fake mother of pearl for the Urban logo down there. So yeah, laminate mahogany back and sides, a mahogany neck, and a lot of people are calling this a Rosewood fingerboard and bridge. I'm here to say that it's not. For one, if I bring this in, it is way too dark to be Rosewood, but also, I don't know if I'll be able to show this to you or not. I'm going to try. Maybe you can see right in to the edge of that fingerboard how it's bleeding through a lighter color. My best guess is this is a lighter wood like maple that has been stained to look like rosewood. Okay, and people call that simulated rosewood. So definitely not a real Rosewood fingerboard and bridge. Not at this price range, not in this day and age. And it just doesn't look or feel like rosewood. And again, we see that dye kind of coming back. So simulated Rosewood fingerboard and bridge. I do like the bridge design. Okay, this is that Urban Phoenix bridge design. And to me, it actually does remind me a little bit of the old Esteban Hawk bridges that you used to see on some of those guitars. So it's a good looking bridge though. Now, full disclosure, this one, I don't know if you'll be able to see that or not. This one is lifting a little bit. You can see that, maybe you can see that coming up off the guitar. I'll bring that in. Perhaps you can see it, perhaps you can't. Maybe you can see that. But this one's lifting a bit. Now, does that mean this guitar is an absolute piece of junk because the bridge is lifting? Again, no. I've seen brand new Taylors, brand new Martins, brand new Gibsons with lifting bridges. I know a musician who's in the area who plays a Gibson J200 and the bridge just popped right out. Another musician in my area played a Martin D16 gloss top and the bridge popped right off. Okay, so unfortunately, bridge issues happen on guitars, expensive and cheap. Now, if this was happening on every Urban guitar, then I would say, yeah, it's indicative of low quality. But in talking to people, it doesn't seem to be that common of an issue. All right, so bit of it sucks that it's happening here, but I can fix it. Fixing a lifting bridge is not all that difficult. But I did want to disclose the information to you. On the fingerboard, by the way, we have these pearloid inlay. I guess they're like the Phoenix inlay. Now, if you don't know what pearloid is, it is a plastic that is meant to look like mother of pearl. So this is not real mother of pearl. It's not even abalone or anything like that. It is just a plastic that's meant to look like it. It is a good-looking inlay, though. But here's something funny about this guitar. The dot inlay on the side. Okay, I don't know how well that picks up, but some of these are really sloppy and really mediocre, especially that 12th fret marker. Look at that. That is just horrendously bad. So it's a small thing, and it doesn't actually affect playability whatsoever, but it does speak a little bit to the fit and finish of this not being up to snuff with those mid-end guitars or high-end guitars. So it does show that this is still a cheaper acoustic. But I do like the fingerboard inlay. I do think it looks good. The nut and saddle on here are plastic. They are black plastic. And this is a compensated saddle. So, if you wanted to upgrade this guitar, one of the ways to do so would be to replace the nut and saddle as well as the bridge pins, because the bridge pins are also just black plastic, which is nothing to write home about. Does it mean this guitar sounds horrible? No, again, it doesn't mean that at all. It just doesn't boost the tone of the guitar. The tuning machines are Grover Rotomatic copies. So you can see that they are Grover style. They are not real Grover. How do they work? They work okay. The guitar doesn't go horribly out of tune, but it doesn't hold a tune particularly well either. I would definitely say upgrade the tuners if you're planning on making this one of your kicking guitars. Now the good news is you could buy a set of Grovers or any of the Rotomatic style tuners from like Wilkinson or Geiger, and they'll drop right in with no modifications necessary. So that is a nice feature. But the tuners on here are not the best. We do have this fake abalone sticker for the purfling around the guitar and the rosette, and it does look good. I don't know how much you can see that on camera, but it's an attractive looking purfling and rosette, but it is just a sticker. And then we have cream binding running along the sides of the guitar and all the way up the neck. By the way, the headstock, I do like the look of the headstock on this guitar. I like the urban inlay. I like our little Phoenix inlay at the top, and I do like the shape of the headstock itself. I do think it's an attractive looking headstock, but I want to go ahead and show that to you there. Let's see, the pickup and preamp on this thing. This is just a typical Piezo undersaddle pickup under the bridge here, and it is an urban branded preamp. Now, ordinarily with these guitars, I can find the preamp pretty easy online by looking around to see what it really is. I was unable to find any other preamps on any guitar that wasn't an urban that looked like this, leading me to believe this probably is an urban proprietary design preamp system, which is interesting. So the controls we have are a tuner, volume, treble, middle, bass, and presence. So honestly a fairly decent array. I don't usually see presence on as many acoustic guitar preamps as I would like to see. So having a nice 4-band EQ isn't bad. How's the tuner? The tuner is good with an exception. Okay, so it tunes high E, B, G, D, A, all that just fine, but it will not pick up this low E string half the time for some reason. And I really don't get why. I put a new battery in it, it still didn't make a difference. And maybe, I'll see if I can get this to show up. But, you know, when I hit that high E, you can see that. Hit the low E. Wait for that to go away. Oh, now it's going to make a liar out of me. Okay. There you go. Well, it's showing up on camera. It's making a liar out of me now. But I swear half the time it doesn't like to pick up that low E string for some reason. But overall, not a bad preamp system. How does it sound plugged in? Again, check the description below for a demonstration of this guitar plugged in directly to my Behringer Ultra Acoustic ACX 1800 amplifier, and from that directly into my audio interface on my computer, with all the EQ set right to the middle, and that'll let you know how the guitar sounds plugged in. Let's see, obviously Dreadnought body shape with a cutaway, so very typical, very standard. The pick guard on here is nice. It's kind of a Taylor style pick guard, faux tortoiseshell. I think it looks nice, especially on this body. Now, they call this their Brazilian burst, and I think it really is an attractive looking sunburst finish. They also make this in an all black finish, however, if you are not a fan of this. Alright, let's see. What else do we have here on my notes that I feel the need to mention? Oh, it only has a 1/4-inch jack output, no XLR. I really hate that. For me, if your guitar doesn't have an end-pin jack, if it has one of these plastic slots cut into the guitar, or put into the guitar, it really should have both output methods, because you've already sliced a hole in your guitar to put plastic down there. Why not go ahead and give us the XLR in addition to the 1/4-inch? So, just a small thing that kind of bugs me. That said, the strap buttons on here are actually very good. They're flared nicely, and the neck strap button is in the right place. That is amazing, because I know so many guitar companies that can't get that right when they charge significantly more for their axes. So, good on you, whoever made these. And by the way, no, this was not made by Yamaha. Okay, a lot of people get that confused because Yamaha makes their own urban acoustic. These were not made by Yamaha. Okay, they don't have the same headstock, they don't have the same standard of quality, and I even reached out to Yamaha directly, and they told me themselves that they only made the Yamaha Urban guitar that they sell on their website, and that you can find at Walmart. They don't make these older Home Shopping Network guitars. These are not Yamaha products. So, try to dispel that myth right now. No, these are not produced by Yamaha. At least from what I've been told by an employee at Yamaha. Let's see here. Anything else I need to mention? Oh yeah, where was the guitar made? Well, I'll answer that. Yep, made in China. Does that matter? No. Where a guitar is made, where anything is made, has nothing to do with it, with the quality. It just has to do with how it's built and how it sounds. Now, fit and finish. Yeah, I do have some sharp fret ends here. Okay, there are specifically right around here at the 4th, 5th fret and the 3rd fret. I'm noticing that they're a little sharp on the ends. Is that too big of a deal? I can dress it, but it could be painful to a new player, so keep that in mind. I did no setup on this guitar when I got it in, by the way, and even with that lifting bridge, you may be able to see the action is pretty decent on this. So, nothing to complain about there. Alright. I've gone over all the tech specs and all the information and what I think about the guitar's finish and feel. Oh, I didn't talk about the neck, though. Aside from those frets, the neck is comfortable. It has a very modern acoustic guitar neck, but it's not a slim, fast-playing neck like what you see on something like an Ibanez acoustic or some of the new Fender acoustics. Just a very traditional-feeling acoustic guitar neck. Now, the acoustic tone demonstration. I already introduced with that little, that little riff that they like to play on Alamo Music and the acoustic letter. Now let's go ahead and do the whole Scott Grove Matchbox 20 thing. Okay, not too bad. How about some plectrum picking, some flat picking? And some finger picking. Aside from me missing the strings there a few times, so aside from my sloppy playing, I think it actually sounds pretty decent. I'm not going to tell you what I think about the mids, the lows, and the highs, because I want you to listen with your ears and not with your mind or with your eyes or what people tell you should be listening for. But the tone, I think, is honestly shockingly decent. Yeah, and here's a fun fact about this. As of the time of this video's recording, which is the 16th of April, I have put this guitar against all 14 other acoustics that are in this room. Okay, so against that Inspired by Gibson Hummingbird, and that Blue Ridge BR340, and that Triple O CXC Martin over there, and that Takamine EF349 lawsuit, and Sigma that I have, and everything else that I have. I put it against every acoustic I own, and so far, this guitar is getting the lead in votes for tone, both acoustically and plugged in, and that really surprised me. It's not the guitar that I personally would have picked as my best sounding guitar, and I don't think that it is myself, but in a blind test where no one knows which guitar is which, this is doing outstandingly well against much more expensive guitars. So maybe that goes to speak about the actual tone of the guitar against any possible bias. Maybe it's, because I know what it is and I know how much I love my other guitars. Maybe I'm showing a bias by not picking it. Who knows? But in my opinion, the tone, it really is pretty decent stuff. I don't really have any major complaints about it. really am playing sloppy today. I'm sorry about that. Not really the greatest representation of the guitar's tone, I guess. Do a little bit of a jazz chording thing here. You know, honestly, like I said, I don't think it's a bad sounding guitar. What do you think of the tone? I would love to hear what you think. Again, the appearance is gorgeous. I love the Brazilian burst. I love the Phoenix bridge. I like the pick guard. I like the abalone sticker purfling. I like the headstock. I really do like a lot about this guitar. The three-piece back, I think, is an attractive feature. And I'm going to really appreciate these strap button placements if I do take this to one of my local gigs and play at one of the rougher bars, because it's actually going to sit comfortably on my neck the whole night, as opposed to awkwardly having the strap bump into my big fat belly. So, yeah, honestly, in my opinion, a remarkably decent guitar. Again, about $150 is what you'll pay for these guitars online on average. Just the guitar, about $250 for it with all the accessories. Do I think it's worth the money? I think the less you spend, the better, obviously, because at $150, I think it's worth $150. Below $150, I think it's worth that all day long. But the problem is once you start getting too much above that, because for $200, you can start getting into some of the budget Yamahas, some of the budget Epiphones, some of the budget Fenders. And I don't think this quite stacks up against those guitars. If you were to put this against, Fender CD60, I think the Fender CD60 would probably come out on top. If you were to put this against, some of the lowest end Yamahas, the Yamahas are probably going to come out on top. And I say that even as someone who doesn't typically like Yamaha guitars, I do think that they're just going to be objectively better built than what this is. Tone, who knows? It's up to the person who hears. Again, this guitar, despite being so cheap and being all laminate, is doing really well against much more expensive instruments. So the tone is purely subjective, but build quality wise, those Yamahas, in my opinion, I think are just going to be better across the board. Now you start getting into like the $250 range, you start looking at the entry level Washburns, which are better. So the less you spend, the better for sure. But I don't think this is a bad instrument by any stretch of the imagination. I do think it's worth looking into. And if you can find one for super cheap at a pawn shop, definitely pick it up. Because, if you can get this for like $50 or so, it's an amazing instrument for that price. And again, if I see them at that price range myself, I'll pick them up just to give them away all day long. And I think it's absolutely worth doing so to help other people learn how to play the guitar. So, yeah, the Urban Player, honestly, not a bad axe. Not a bad axe by any stretch of the imagination. I think it looks good. I think it sounds pretty decent. I think the fit and finish is hit and miss, but not god-awful either. So, that has been my review on the Urban Player guitar. I hope this was informative and helped someone out there who is just trying to decide whether or not to buy one of these guitars for themselves, for their kid, for their friend, for the person they're trying to teach, for their significant other, whatever the case may be. If you were looking at one of the Urban Player guitars, I hope this review was helpful to you, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Until next time, peace, and I'll see you later.